Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, co-editor-in-chief of Retail Insider. My guest today is Val Upfold, who is principal of Val Upfold Inc., a hospitality industry HR expert and executive recruiter based in Toronto. Thanks for joining us today, Val.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Okay, well, exciting times coming here in the next couple of weeks in Toronto, FIFA World Cup, and obviously a lot of tourists coming from afar and from even within Canada. And what's that going to mean for the bars and restaurants out there? Now I understand. What time are they going to stay open till?
Well, this was just announced last week, actually, that the bars and restaurants you can serve until 4 a.m. So that's an extension of 2 hours, a very specific time of the day. So that adds a lot of pressure onto restaurants and bars for sure.
So what does that do in terms of, staffing? Like
Mhm.
you're almost 24 hours there
That's right.
over a period of time. How are you going to get people to do this?
Well, that's kind of what I've been speaking a lot about is exactly that, is that, the hospitality industry as a whole is short-staffed. I know we are hearing lots about, youth unemployment is very high, but really in hospitality, we still have a whole ton of job openings. And that's before we add the pressure on to this, this massive international thing, this massive sporting event coming to Toronto. We're used to having North American big things. We had the World Series here in October, and that that added
Yeah.
pressure. But this is at a whole other scale. This scale is like international. So I really feel that it's going to. It's there's already strain. Managers are already working overtime. Staff's already working extra hours, and this is before we have all these extra people and before we have 2 hours extra where we're going to be open and people are going to be served. So it's going to put a lot of pressure. It's going to be a stress test for the city for sure.
So what are the bars and restaurants? How do you deal with this? And what should they be doing right now to prepare?
Well, hopefully they're already getting prepared because the ones that are going to be successful are already have staffed and they've already trained because really in 2 weeks, I mean, when is it now? Next week's June. Yeah, so in
Yeah.
just over 2 weeks, we're going to have a lot of extra people in the city. So hopefully people have already planned. I mean, again, this is something that we should have been planning for. Something like the World Series, we didn't plan for because you don't know what's going to happen. We've known about this. Unfortunately, I feel like the hospitality industry as a whole is a bit more reactive as opposed to being proactive in a lot of cases. So I would say the ones that are going to be successful have already hired, they've already trained, they've already got their staff ready. Because what you don't want to happen is, people getting overworked and burnt out and stressed and leaving when this is all happening.
And also, also if you're understaffed, you can see it now, like anywhere. Like if you're understaffed, and people are burnt out, the service is
Mm,
obviously suffers, right? And so that
yeah.
hits the customer, and obviously it hits your image as an establishment.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something I'm always preaching too, is that whole retention piece. If we've been short staffed, like we were short staffed before COVID, and then that happened, so we were more staffed, and we're still not up to the same levels as we were pre 2020. And that's the thing is the retention piece, exactly to your point, is that if people are burnt out, if people are working extra hours, they're going to leave, and it actually costs more. It's around $5,500 per person to hire each person in for those turnover costs. And
Wow.
restaurants as a whole turn over their staff 100% twice a year on average. So there's a large, exactly to your point too, service suffers. People are working extra hours, training suffers, new people are coming in, and we're going to be on the world stage. There's a lot of high profile people that are going to be talking to lots of people. There's lots of tourists here for the first time. So this is not when we want to see cracks, that's for sure.
Yeah. So tell
Yeah.
me, in general, why are we facing um, those shortages, I guess, and troubles in staffing the restaurant and bar industry, and yet I keep hearing about how the youth unemployment is high, and
Yeah.
and there's certain jobs, and you see lineups galore for them. Why is
Mhm.
this industry struggling?
Well, there's few reasons. I think the one thing that I always want to highlight is the fact that our industry as a whole is not seen as a career job. It's seen as a job that's, temporary while you're going to school looking for a career job. And that's something that we as a whole need to change that perspective. There are a ton of jobs in restaurants, hotels, and hospitality. And so I feel like that's the number one thing. And so when COVID happened, people started leaving hospitality for lots of different reasons. The birth rate's gone down. There's a ton of reasons why there's open positions, but why hospitality the most, I think, is not seen as career. I think that traditionally we've been a lower paying industry. Traditionally, we've been an industry that sees more burnout, an industry that sees not very much flexibility in scheduling. So other industries have been able to, fix that a bit quicker than we have. So I think that's why hospitality needs to change a bunch of things so that we can get ahead of that shortage because it's been happening for decades. When I was in HR 20 years ago for a large restaurant group, we were talking about the same thing and now it's worse. So we
Yeah.
have to change how we think about things.
So how, when you look at, say, the culture around restaurants and bars, and where we think here in Canada, this is normal. Say the practice around tipping, or for instance, is give an
Mhm.
example. How do you I don't know, how do you adapt to maybe the Europeans may think a different way. You know what I mean? Uh,
Like around the tipping?
yeah, say around tipping, for example. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Are we kind of standard in Canada, like kind of like, like the US, or is a different culture in other countries?
Yeah, I think, and that goes hand in hand with what I said about it not being a career. So we've always looked at it as being a temporary thing. And so then we put the responsibility on the guests to pay for a big chunk of our staffing. So that model is certainly broken. I think that's a North American construct, though. I think that's a whole bigger thing. But it does go hand in hand with that piece about it being not an industry that people think about going to school for, which was not helped in Ontario, and it was not helped by the fact that they just closed a whole bunch of hospitality programs. So we as
Mm.
an industry are trying to tell people it's a great career. Tell your kids to get into hospitality. And then we've just closed all these programs. So that's not helping with that whole perception either.
Yeah, and I imagine when you're talking about jobs, we're not uh, just talking about servers, right? Like,
Hmm.
what it's everything like cooks and
Yeah. Oh, for the shortage, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah, right now, yeah, everything. And even, with FIFA, even, security staff, there's lots of different purchasing people, accounts receivable, like every single area of hospitality is going to be like ramped up and extra busy. So it's not just the servers and the managers and the cooks and the chefs and the hosts, but it's also that whole infrastructure behind the scenes too that is going to be taxed.
Who are going to be the winners after this is all said and done?
Well, the winners are going to be the ones I think that are the ones that have planned. You hear people saying, and it's been consistent the last couple of weeks. Oh, it's the same as hosting the Jays. We do Raptors and Jays at the same time. That's 80,000 people downtown at one time. It's no big deal. Hotels aren't a capacity. So I feel like people are underplaying it instead of thinking about it's not just when the Jays and Raptors are in town, fine. We have a lot of people downtown, but there's not watch parties, there's not fan festivals, there's not people all around wanting to get into the excitement of the event. It's more similar to an Olympics. I was in London, England for the Olympics, and it wasn't, I had tickets to a couple of games, but there's tons of stuff everywhere. So that's the thing. People are saying, oh, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But it's that whole other side of it that doesn't happen with the Jays or Raptors because we're used to having them around. It's not a big deal. So I think that's what people are missing is that part.
And on a reputation kind of a level, right? And many say for many who are visiting for this are going to be here for the first time, right? So this is going to be your impression of Toronto, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of critical, for those in the tourism industry. I'm sure they're thinking this is critical that the impression is a good one, so that they come back and they tell their family and friends
Yeah.
in Italy or in Ireland that, hey, this is a great place to go visit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like, I mean, sure, people probably come to these bigger sporting events that we have in Toronto, and get a hotel room, or but it's not people aren't not, as it's not necessarily booking their whole summer vacation around a Jays game, but people are from all over the world are booking their vacation around these World Cup games. And it's also, how's the transit going to keep up? How's the safety going to be? How are all these people
Yeah.
working till 4, but don't not leaving their place until 5 in the subway, all those things like how, so it is going to be people from around the world are going to either, be very impressed or think, oh, well, but I do think that people that are going to be successful in hospitality are going to be the ones that have prepared. They're staffed, they're trained. They're not these people saying, oh, it's not a big deal. It's the same as the Jays. It's not the same as the Jays.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
Yeah.
so much, Val, for
Yeah.
joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Great to speak about it.
Okay, great. That was Val Upfold, who is a hospitality industry HR expert and executive recruiter based in Toronto. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, co-editor in chief of Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.